Yeah, I was hit with the judgment of 117,000. That's true. I haven't talked about it because I don't like making stuff about me. I'm not embarrassed by it. If anything, I think that this entire situation is sympathetic. If you want to know what happened was this: when I was shutting down, you all know, or many of you know, and I'll probably now I'm gonna have to address this. I'm probably gonna end up addressing this on Saturday night, and the internet can go crazy for the next 3 days. And okay, fine. But yes, I was hit with a judgment of $117,000 when I was shutting down my company. So we were during we had a 3 month winding down phase where we were like basically transferring and training another company how to do what we do. So we were working with a skeleton staff. There was a letter that went out, which went out to a debtor, which should not have been sent. And there were legal flaws in the letter. It was basically demanding a subpoena. It was issuing a subpoena across state lines on too short a time window. There were a couple of flaws in the letter. I never followed up on the letter. I never did anything with the letter. It was a letter that went out. The recipient of the letter was someone who actually owes $8,000, $9,000 or thereabouts. And he claimed that receipt of the letter caused him tremendous emotional stress, and that this is a violation of the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. So I basically, and he sued me personally. The reason he sued me personally is because my name was on it. The letter had been signed off by someone else. They basically would take a stamp, and they would basically stamp my signature on it. And I'm technically obliged to be aware of anything like that. There were thousands of letters that went out, and this was one of the last of many tens of thousands of letters that went out. And this one was flawed. He claimed that he was emotional wreck. He went to a lawyer 2 days later, never got any counseling or anything for it. The court found a $500 statutory violation. There was a hearing that I attended, which I was self-representing at first, and then it got too stressful. Because the key is the legal fees. It's not his actual damages, it's legal fees. And it basically is a racket. The entire system is set up as a racket. No matter what I was offering to try and resolve this, they wouldn't take it. And they were demanding like out of the gate, like $25,000. I'm like, are you out of your freaking mind? I didn't have $25,000 to give them. And it was ridiculous. So their settlement demands were insane. And I ended up having to hire a lawyer. And because I was like, I need someone who's an expert in defending FDCPA violations. And I think that the work they did there was fine. But the way the system is set up, over the course of time, because I was fighting this for 7 years, they racked up what they claimed was $200,000 in legal fees. The overall judgment against me was for $8,000. This is based on his purported emotional damages that the magistrate judge found that, in her estimation, was worth $8,000. Understand that his emotional damage lasted, according to his wife. His testimony, to my mind, sounded completely lacking any credibility. It just seemed like a complete slimy dude. His wife certainly had more credibility. And she was like, saying how worried she was, how stressed he looked and stuff like that. Okay. Well, anyway, bottom line is, my opinion on it doesn't really matter in the context of things. Magistrate judge found and recommended $8,000 for him for his emotional damages. And then they tacked on another $100,000. They slashed the legal fees by 45% and tacked on another $100,000 in legal fees to have a grand total judgment of $117,000, which is like every step of the way. I was like, let's sell this. Ridiculous. This was insane. It was insane. So yeah, so now I have $117,000 judgment against me personally. There you go. I haven't figured out what I'm going to do with it yet. They haven't really tried executing it yet, but it's not fined. It's pretty stupid way of saying it. It's actually liable. It's a liability. But the 117,000, 100,000 of it was legal fees because these lawyers were just insanely aggressive and completely unwilling to sell on any stage of the. It was like basically like, how do I get out of this? How do I like make this thing end and just pay? And no, there was just no way to like make it end. There was just nothing I could do. That doesn't even count. The $117,000 doesn't even count what I estimate is roughly $40,000 in legal fees that I ended up incurring, and that's only because they came on board for the last like year. I was fighting it myself for the first 4 years. If I had a lawyer throughout this whole thing would have ended up costing me like $500,000. So, yeah. Anyway, so I saw a couple of people were making comments about it, on some in some of the chat, and I was just like, I'm just not in the mood to deal with this right now. But it is what it is. I'm not embarrassed by it. I mean, a letter went out that shouldn't have gone out, and I recognized that when I saw it. I was like, the lawyer called me, and I was like, don't worry about it. We're not going to do anything about it. We're not going to follow up on it. And he's like, oh, I'm going to follow up on it. I'm going to basically come after you and build my law practice off of this, I guess. So it really, to me, is a bigger statement about how insane the FDCPA is. This is one of the reasons I personally can't stand Liz Warren, because she's the one who set all this in motion. That it's like someone literally sent out one letter that the guy forgot about, because the guy actually owed at that point in time with interest like $17,000. He actually owed money. And I sent him a letter, which is a subpoena, which, by the way, if the subpoena had been served instead of by hand, but had been served by like someone there, if it had been, if we had taken the proper steps, the subpoena itself was completely fine. There was nothing wrongful about that. But because of the fact that it hadn't been properly entered in Florida and served by a marshal, so it was technically a violation of the FDCPA. But that's basically, that's the story right there. I'm probably going to having to address this on Saturday night, because now meme code, like the people who are like desperate to like find some sort of content, they're like, ooh. Oh, his video borders on slander. I'm probably gonna watch it. I'll probably watch it Saturday night. How long is his video? An hour and 44 minutes? An hour and 44 minutes. Wow. An hour and 44 minutes. Schadenfreude. People, oh my gosh. Wow. All right. A live stream. All right. Trust me, if there's $100,000 judgment against meme copium, no one would actually care. No one would actually be bothered with that. So he's been in a mudslinging mood ever since Nick. Like, I don't know. He's the classic. I mean, this is like your classic, loser trying to punch up. But I do need to address this $117,000 judgment, because a lot of people are going to have questions about it. It is what it is, and if anything, I think it makes me look sympathetic. I'm just like, wow, you make one mistake and all of a sudden you get hit with $117,000. That's pretty insane. It's pretty freaking insane.